The Colorado Authors League presents The Cal Zone, the League's official podcast. Welcome to a place for tasty conversation about books, art, and more, all created by members of the Colorado Authors League. Here's your host, Tricia Copeland.
Welcome, Dianne.
Hi, how are you?
I'm great. I'm super excited to talk to you today. We have Dianne Blomberg. She's an award-winning speaker, author, and adjunct professor at the University of Denver. And I'm super excited to dive in. I've never really talked to an essayist, and I think you do script writing as well as children's books. So lots of different media or types of writing. I'm super excited to dive in and learn all about essays first, and then maybe talk about script writings after that.
Great. I'm so excited to be here and such a tremendous supporter of Cal. I've been a member for a long, long time. I love the organization.
So jump in. The only reference I have for essays is like the essays I did in high school and college. So tell me like what the definition of an essay would be and how that would be different from a short story, or maybe an essay could be an article, I'm assuming, and just a little bit more about essays.
Oh, great question. So there are a couple of different kinds of essays. One of them would be more, first of all, journalism is what we think of as reportage. So it's you simply are reporting what happened, and the reader would never know your opinion. That's good reporting, isn't it? And then essays could be the type of nonfiction, for example, that you might read in the New York Times, and it could be an opinion piece where, we know that person's opinion, and it is often, those kind of nonfiction essays are often about news items and perhaps political items, and they're great think pieces. That's what I like to imagine them. And then there are personal essays that are about exactly what they say. They're about the person or the person's life and the person's observations. And creative nonfiction are personal essays. And that means that the event really did happen, and I'm not making up anything about the event or the people. However, it will include a story arc. So that's where it borrows from our fiction friends, doesn't it? And so the story arc and character arc, those are implanted by the writer. So everything is real. It really happened this way. That's really how it ended up. You can't make anything up. But you do include some fiction elements. And that's what we call creative nonfiction or personal essays. And that's what I write.
Tell me the purpose of those personal essays. Could they be to influence someone, to relay a feeling, make someone think about an issue differently, or make someone think about an issue at all? I mean, is that sort of the point?
Well, that certainly is the point of a nonfiction essay. Is, we make a statement. We might be hoping to persuade someone, but the most important part of an essay, nonfiction essay, is I want you to start thinking about this. You might think about it differently, or I might implant some persuasive elements so that I can change your mind or hope to change your mind. In creative nonfiction, that does not exist. In the personal essay, I am simply telling you the story of, it could be my life, it could be my daughter's life, it could be the life of my dog. And they're going to be, because there are fictional elements in there, you will feel emotion. So I will attack, so to speak, your senses. I will want you to smell what I smelled. I want you to feel what the carpet felt like on my bare feet. I want to bring you into the moment. And then I want you to experience emotionally. Your senses will help you experience emotionally exactly what I went through. And then at the end, the hope on a creative nonfiction or personal essay is that you will identify with the writer, with the circumstance, and possibly it will enhance your life in some way. That's what we hope. It may or may not. And like so many other writing experiences, I don't know how it's going to land when I send it out, when it's published. It could change somebody's life, or somebody could read it and say, meh. But if it makes your life different somehow, maybe I hope better, if you can identify with it, possibly you might say, wow, she went through that. And look at the end, she's so positive. And I'm going through something similar that really inspires me. So often they are inspirational and not just informational.
Right. And so, yeah, it seems like that is like merging towards what we might call a short story, right? Would you say that a creative nonfiction essay is sort of like a short story?
Well, the big difference is that in a short story, you make it up. It might be based on an experience you had.
Mhm.
For example, I have a short story published that is, when I started writing it, I had no idea it was going to go to the macabre, but it did. And it's based on a real woman I know, and and then a different woman who had the experiences. So it's the real woman who's sitting at the bar and a real woman who had experiences. They're different people. And I just blended them together. And then I added stuff I made up stuff. And then it suddenly took this turn, as fiction does, to this place that was very bizarre. And that, though based on two different real people, and two different real things that happen to the real people, is truly a short story. It's fictional.
Okay.
Whereas what I write is not fictional. The only thing that's related to fiction is the tools that I use,
Okay.
because I
So,
want to engage your senses and your emotions.
right.
So I
And
use specific tools to do that.
right. And a lot of times telling a story helps us implant in the reader, like helps the reader retain and learn it more. Like if you're telling a story, if it means something,
Mhm.
even, even about a product cycle, like the person
Yes,
was having trouble with this and this product changed their lives in this way. And if you tell that story, that kind of engages the reader more than just saying, you
that's right.
should feel better after XYZ.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So there is a big difference, and the most important thing about personal essays is that we essayists cannot, and we do not, we're very honest about this, and we hold true and fast that we do not make anything up. So if the event happened in November of 2019, you cannot make it convenient for yourself because you want to also like plug in the COVID epidemic. You can't say, "Oh, yeah, it happened let's see, November of 2020." No, it didn't. So historically it's going to be on the same in the same month. Well, did it happen on November 2019 on November 6th, or was it the 8th? It doesn't, that really doesn't matter, but it happened in November of 2019. So and the other thing that people often ask me is, well, what about the dialogue? I mean, you have dialogue in there. Are those the exact words your father said? Probably not, but that's the gist of it. And then fictionally, I've added the dialogue. I don't remember exactly what he said, but I do remember he said, this is what a crescent wrench is, right? He taught me what a crescent wrench looks like and how to use it. But do I remember his exact words, the exact no, I couldn't. I was 7 years old. But the essence of it is there.
Okay, so now I'm super impressed with essayists because I used to think short stories were the hardest thing to write, but now I'm going to say it's essays
Oh, that's
because
sweet. Yeah, they're pretty tough to write because you do not have that fictional liberty. You really don't. But you have what really happened, and now you have to make it interesting enough that not only will people read it, but they will feel something. They have to feel something. And when we think about a nonfiction essay, it really, whether you feel something or not doesn't matter. The essayist is just telling you this is what happened. They're very closely related to reportage or journalism.
Right.
very
Yeah,
close.
so it seems like an essay, you would just have like one theme and one plot line around this one occurrence or
Yes.
event, story arc, and just a very few characters to tell that story.
That is
Um,
true.
Right.
That is
But then you have all the other sensory words or sensory
Mhm.
things to go with it. Like, what is the person seeing? What are they smelling? What are they hearing?
That's
And
right.
how are they experiencing this one story? So
This
that's
one
a
story.
lot of to condense into and be very careful about word choice. Whereas
Yeah.
in like a novel, you can have side characters, you can have subplots, you can have various themes and you don't, I mean, every word is important, but maybe not as important as in an
Yeah,
essay.
that's true. And in a novel, I mean, you have to have all of that, or else we don't think of it as a novel, and it certainly won't be interesting to anybody. And sometimes, I'll give you a good example. Sometimes essayists will write something that you think that I think this could be longer. And so it becomes memoir.
Okay.
So creative nonfiction essay or personal essay becomes memoir when there's more to say. I have so much more to say. And I wrote a memoir and then I submitted it to this really wonderful contest in Pittsburgh. And it was selected. I think there were eight, maybe seven of us selected. And we spent the week in Pittsburgh with two amazing editors from publishing companies. And they read our work, and then we met one on one with them to talk about our work. So there I am. It's my turn. I think I had 3 hours with each person and they weren't together in the room. And each person said the same thing to me. And so I knew it must be true. And this is what, in so many words, what they said. What you wrote is not what you think you wrote. This is not the memoir topic you said that you were submitting. What I thought I was submitting was the memoir of my marriage to my late husband, who was 25 years older than I. And I thought that is going to be just an amazing story to read because everything about it was different from the norm of what we think when a younger woman marries an older man. Completely different. And when they said, no, what you wrote was, you know, whatever number, 80,000, 90,000 words about your relationship, your difficult relationship with your father. What? No, that's not what I wrote. Well, that is what I wrote.
Hmm.
So I came home, I put it on a shelf for a year, like we do. And then I decided, okay, I'm going to write the story of the marriage to the older person in essay form. So I started writing little compartmentalized pieces of my story, personal essays, and sending them out. Every single one of them gets published, like all of them. Yes, yes, yes. A couple of them made it into anthologies. One of them was selected as best essay of the year. And, I did podcasts on different ones. So that worked. That worked. So then I thought, now I want to see if I can put those together into a memoir form. And I started working on it, but it didn't work for me. It just, no, these are standalone essays. They're not pieces of a memoir. So now I'm working on the story as a novel. So it is my story, but it's a novel, which means I have that lovely literary license. So that's what I'm working on now. And it's so different and so fascinating to me to go from personal narrative, creative nonfiction to personal essays to now, same story, same persons, everything is exactly the way it happened, but now it's going to be a novel.
A lot of my novels have come from short stories, so I see how like an
Mhm.
essay could to lead to a memoir, or a memoir could lead to obviously a group of essays, which leads me into my next question. And you talked about it a little bit, submitting who do you submit essays to?
Literary journals,
Okay.
mostly, contests that are managed by literary journals, and that's pretty much who you submit. I mean, you can also submit to specific, like the Christian Science Monitor. They have a section every, I don't know how often this section, I think this section only comes out once a week. And these are sort of feel good essays, and they are personal essays. And they're sort of folksy, and they're about parents and grandparents and things like that. And so that's a place. And then there are other newspapers that have space for personal essays, but those are, like our newspapers, kind of shrinking. So literary journals is the top space.
Okay. And so the literary journals might open up for like essays on a certain topic or with a certain theme, and then you'd submit based on the theme that you write in. Okay.
Some of them do, but most of them don't. Most of them are just looking for essays.
Yeah.
And um, one of the things that many of us use, there's a an app called Duotrope, Duo Trope, Trope. So it's one word, Duotrope. And Duotrope is wonderful because every week I get a call. It just has, calls. And these are calls for essays. And some of them are really impossible places like the New Yorker to get into. And others are relatively newer literary journals, or literary journals that have a lot of space for essays. And then in one little section of Duotrope, they have theme calls. And that's what you're talking about.
Okay.
And I never look at those and say, I'm going to write to that theme. I look at things I've already written that are ready to go out. This one might work. So I'll send to that theme.
Okay. And are you paid for when you get accepted? Are you paid for your
Well,
essay?
I only submit to journals that pay, but
Okay.
there are a lot of them that do not pay. So, yeah, it just kind of, because I've been published enough, I don't want to submit without pay. So, but when you first get started, submit to everywhere. And
Okay.
then, in your little blurb, it's anywhere from, 50 to 150 words that you send with your submission. It'll say, I've been published here, and I've been published there. But if you've never been published in this area, go ahead and send it to the unpaid, because it's an opportunity for people to read your work, for you to see your work in print. And that's important when you then send to the paid.
Right. So you kind of build your resume a little bit.
You sure do. You
Okay.
have to.
And then entering those contests, I would think would do the same, right?
It's actually very much the same. And contests, the only contests I enter are the ones that have a blind jury. So I don't want you to know my name. I just, on the basis of my work. So if it's a blind review, that is a greater, I think, in my opinion, it's a greater award than when you submit with your name.
Okay. Interesting.
So
That's good to know.
yeah. But first, submit with your name, and, do anything because you want to first get published, and then you keep working toward being paid. Yeah.
Right. And we were talking before, you said you were working on a collection of essays or
Yeah, the
doing, is
difference,
it?
okay, there's a book of essays and there's a collection of essays. A collection of essays is going to be where they all have the same theme, they all work together somehow. That's a collection. Mine is a book of essays that are sort of loosely tied together with one theme, and they're all written. And now I'm in the editing process with all of them and making decisions about which one should come first, second, third in the book. So that's the difference between a collection or a book of.
Okay, so but both of these would be published sort of like a book, say like on Amazon or some publishing house like that,
Yeah, I
right?
don't self-publish, so mine are all everything I do is traditionally published.
Okay, right.
Yeah, uh-huh. And
Interesting.
so the name of my book is what else do you have, girl? Or what else you got, girl, is the actual name of it. What else you got, girl? And then the subtitle is essays about moving on. What else you got, girl? Essays about moving on.
Fun. Yeah. So then like somebody could pick that up and it might be good. I mean, in this day and age, my husband says, "Oh, I only read an article if it's 15 minutes or less." So, I mean, this is something you could pick up and read like one essay pretty quickly and
Yes.
get a lot out of. And then you might pick it up again and read the next essay, but
Yeah.
it doesn't take tons of time like a novel to get the whole theme in 8 hours.
No, that's why I like writing essays, and I decided I'm going to do a book of essays so that you can read one. It's a whole story in itself. You walk away with your inspiration or your thoughts or your feelings, I hope. And then maybe tomorrow you just open up to a page like 50 pages later. They all have the same theme. They're all written with the same theme, but in no way do you have to have read one, two, three, four before five makes sense.
Right.
And you know, the funny thing is that's how I like to read. And so that's how I like to write. That because yeah, I don't know if people write for themselves or write for their readers. I don't know. But I I don't like reading. Well, I mean, obviously I read novels, but I don't like feeling that I have to devote the next hour to this book because I don't have the next hour to devote to the book. I'm doing too much work. So I love it if I can read something, a novel with short chapters, and I usually then put a sticky note in it and make a note about what just happened to the main character because it might be a week before I pick it up again. I don't have that luxury of just being on the couch for 9 hours in a row.
I think most of us do not,
It
right?
does, exactly. That's why I love writing creative nonfiction where it's in small bits and pieces. So people can read it and love what they just read and set it aside, or a nightstand book. You know, it's that sort of book. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Sounds
Yeah.
really neat. Yeah, I'm really intrigued because I do another podcast too, and I interview tons of authors, and it's just so interesting to me how different people's brains work different ways, and people
Oh,
do
yeah.
really tend to write how they like to read.
That is, it seems that way. You know, of course, in my business, I have so many friends who are authors, and I, they really do that. And they also like to write what they like to read. Yeah. So I've
Yeah.
never written fantasy. I've never written thrillers because I don't like reading those. But I do. I like writing what I like to read. Yeah.
And you're probably better at it because you know it in and out because you've been reading it probably for so long.
Yeah, I'll tell you one thing though, I'm very cautious when I'm in the middle of a book. Like now, the novel I'm working on based on my life with my late husband is it's just such great pure romance. I wouldn't read anything romantic right now because I don't want to accidentally copy or mimic anybody's voice or anybody's style or anybody's it's just really important to me.
Yeah, I do the same thing. So I write fantasy and I write romance novels.
Yeah.
And when I'm writing fantasy, I do not read any fantasy. And when I'm writing romance, I do not read any romance because I don't want to like pick up on something that's somebody else's work or include something that, didn't really come from my brain. So,
Yeah, and you wouldn't do it purposefully, but it would just happen. Those things come through. I was writing, I also write television scripts, and I wrote something in a script, and I hadn't submitted it yet, but then I started thinking, wait a second, that's so funny, and I love it. Did I hear that somewhere? And so I set it aside, and I started looking at actually watching a couple of old television shows that I like, like from the 70s and old sitcoms. And oh my God, there it is. That's exactly what I just wrote. I was mortified because I love watching old sitcoms and I write sitcoms. So, oh dear God, I'm so glad that I've discovered it because, yeah, it's a great line because somebody else wrote it and you saw it on television. So, erase, erase, erase.
Yeah, how do you reword that to be your own, right?
Yeah, and I didn't even try. There's no way.
Yeah,
There's no
just
way.
take it
The
out.
line is, it's so wonderful. This guy says, I hope this doesn't take too long because I have a lecture at noon. And the other character says, Oh, are you a student? And he says, No, I'm having lunch with my mother. And I just love, and I obviously I must have loved it because I borrowed it without really knowing I borrowed it.
Right, yeah.
Glad I recognized that before I sent it in.
Do you want to jump in and talk about script writing?
So, script writing came to me about 4 years ago, and I have a co-writer for script writing. I don't have co-writers for anything else. And my co-writer and I thought about, oh, I don't know, we wanted to do something together. And he's also my partner and in life. And so we thought, well, he's a journalist, just like scrappy journalist, that jumps the fence to get the interview. And he said, well, maybe we could do a deep dive on, a personal biography or something. And that sounded so boring to me. So I said, well, I know a lot about theater and why don't, maybe we write a script. So we started writing a script that would have been great for a stage play. And we set that aside. And then we came up with, what about writing a pilot for television? And so it's a romantic comedy. And the log line is a 55 plus community is upended when two cash strapped mismatched boomers run an illegal business from their condos. And it's loosely based on our lives. And so it's very personal to us. And we really enjoyed writing the pilot. And so it's won just a ton of awards. It just won first place for best comedy script at the Cannes Script Writing Festival. Most people have heard of the Cannes Film Festival and don't know that they have a script writing festival before the film festival. So we took first place in television comedy writing. Our script did. So that's, we're winning at that level. We haven't sold it yet, but we continue to look for a buyer. It's a really difficult time in Hollywood right now. Mostly the production houses are purchasing from script writers who have written for many years, like, James Burroughs or whatever, and new script writers, even if you've been published in a different area, which both of us have many times, they're not interested. They're unwilling and a little frightened to take a chance on us. And so it may have to sit on a shelf, I don't know, until that opens up a little more. But it's been in the hands of places like Lionsgate and Tubi and, big important houses. And they love it, but they have said, it's not something that we feel we can do at this time. And I know why, because we're nobody. So we'll see. We remain hopeful and we'll keep marketing it,
Fun. Yeah, I've heard from other scriptwriters that, one of the best things to do is go to the festivals, enter your book in the contest, just like with the essays you were talking about. And that's how you get noticed and, hopefully picked up by agent. But, I took a script writing class this year and I learned that was like a new skill for me. I had a lot of fun doing it because I was converting one of my novels, but I just haven't done that extra step of doing anything with it because it does seem so daunting and like the 1 in a million chance. And I'm like, how much energy am I going to put into this 1 in a million chance when I could be writing my next novel? So.
Yeah, that is a really good question. This has been our project for almost 4 years. And we went to the Austin Film Festival, which is the festival for script writing. And we received a recommend, which is the highest award you can receive. And even that didn't get us sold. It's true to go to the festivals and you're going to hobnob with people. You're going to hang out after hours at the bars and meet the agent and all that kind of stuff. Truth is, there's not much that really gets picked up there right now because of the market, and it's extremely expensive. It takes a lot of money, a lot of investment to do that. And like am I going to, put year 5 into it and go out and borrow money to go to all these festivals? We are not. So we have received tremendous awards, and we hope that will help us get noticed and get this product sold. That's our hope.
Well, and maybe when the market is different, then that will turn, and
exactly.
those indie scriptwriters will start being picked up.
I know, exactly. I'm so glad you said that, because we're very hopeful, and the market changes. All markets change, don't they?
Yes, I mean, like when I first started writing, indie authors were very new. And, most of the impressions of indie authors were, oh, it's probably not well edited. It's probably not a good story. There's probably tons of mistakes and all of these things. And I think that has flipped. At least I think the public perception has mostly flipped for that. So I think there is like waves. And a lot of it. Yeah,
there are certainly waves. Yeah, I have 2 published children's picture books. One was traditionally published, and I sent it out to, I think, 7 publishers, and the 7th one sent the letter, "Oh, we're so excited to offer you a contract. We can't wait to publish your lovely story." And I thought, oh, this is easy. It went into publication. It's called Sam and Graham and the First Day of School. It went into publication 1999, and it stayed in print until December 31st of 2024. So that's pretty insane. They usually go out of print after 3 years. Children's books do. And so then I thought, oh, this is easy. What's the big deal? Well, that's how that one worked. They don't usually work that way. And then my second children's book that's published, a picture book, was really important to me to publish it. I love the story. I love the message. But I couldn't find any traditional publisher to take it. So I did do a self-publishing on that. And it was, I've sold a lot of them, but I have to do all the marketing, as you know, and I have other things I'm writing, and I don't want to do any more marketing. But now, I don't want to self-publish anything else. Everything else I do is always traditionally published. And that's just my desire, because though my work started professionally in marketing, I don't want to do that now. I want to write.
Yeah. You can wear so many different hats, and it really depends on the person as to where they want to put their energy, where it's important for them to put their energy, where they can spend their energy on what. And there's so many different decisions to be made with indie published versus. And I talked to so many authors, and my story is funny because I was not patient. I tried for 6 months to query, and most authors I know that's nothing. I know it's nothing. Most authors,
I love that.
Most authors I talked to is like 2 or 3 years, and you kind of have to rewrite the story. You have to redo things. And I was not patient at all. I was like, no, not waiting for that.
No, thank you. I'm busy. I understand it. I really do.
I do talk to those authors who it took 2 or 3 years, but now they have Penguin and they're published under Penguin Random House. So, there's both paths. So that's all great.
I know. And I understand both of them. And they both have a lot of merit.
You've been listening to The Cal Zone, the official podcast of the Colorado Authors League, supporting and promoting its creative community since 1931. Learn more about us at coloradoauthors.org. This is a production of the nonprofit Colorado Authors League.